Yo, Cover One crew, what is going on? Your boy Chris Chow's back again for Fantasy Football Cover One style. Hope everybody's doing great. You know what? The injury problem is a big one for fantasy football, and we got players dropping like flies right now. Cordero Patterson, gone for 4 on the IR. We just saw Vontae Williams. He's gone for the season with an ACL. Good Lord, this is going to hurt a lot of people, but a lot of transactions are happening as we speak, and I got a lot of players to discuss to get you guys the players to recover. Your season is not over because you lost a player. We know this. It's a war of attrition. I don't know how much more I can say this. Let's dive in. I got a bunch of players on a Waiver Wire Must-Add Players edition this week for week number 5. So despite like most fantasy owners do about this time, week 5, week 6, week 7, they pack it in if their record is on the losing streak or the losing end. Do not do this. They start packing it in if your players start to get injured. I keep telling you, I will help you through the problems and get you into the good books. So start out with these running backs and who is on the board this week. Now, like I said, Cordero Patterson is gone for 4 games due to the injury to his knee. Now he's on the IR. Tyler Algier, the rookie, is now the top waiver priority, in my opinion, this week for week number 5. Only 16.5% ownership rate as we sit today, 17.4 points. And I mean, he does have a little bit of competition. There was another running back this past weekend that did get a lot of carries. So there likely will be a split backfield in Atlanta this next 4 weeks, you want to say. But Tyler Algier did look very good. He is put together human being, and he's going to take a lot of goal line work and upside in that respect. Also, now you got Marcus Mariota. Like we know, he does the read option very well. This is all good news for a guy like Tyler Algier. He is a guy, if you are struggling, if you had a Patterson on your roster, he is the guy you need to go and get right now. Fab dollars are going to be expensive for this man. You got to think at minimum 20% because we are already in week 5. Running backs are a scarce commodity that we got to have on our teams. So Tyler Algier is definitely one you got to target. Whether or not you lost Patterson, you just want extra depth to remove it from other teams, you got to go after Mr. Algier, man. Raheem Mostert, he found his way back on the list even though he just passes the 50% threshold for ownership rate. He's at 51% even, 23.3 points so far on the season. But what we did see this past week on Thursday Night Football was the fact that he was starting to get sprinkled in a little bit more in this offensive system. Now we know Tua Tagovailoa is going to be missing in action this coming week. They're going to have to rely on this ground game between Edmonds and Mostert in this backfield. Mostert does have the supreme wheels over someone like a Chase Edmonds, so I would not be shocked to see more workload come his way. He is definitely one you got to get on your roster. We may not play him just yet, but you got to get him on your roster just in case. If something happens to Edmonds, you got yourself an RB1 in an offense with boatloads of speed and the ability to keep stacked boxes away from the line. So Mostert is a guy. I said this a couple weeks ago. You should have had him already. 51% is not near enough of ownership of what this man should have been the past 2 weeks of this season. Brian Robinson, he finds himself back on the notable addition list. Some people may still be sleeping on his services. He is back from the injury. The Washington Commanders, the Commies, they got 21 days to activate him on the roster after being reactivated from the pup. So now he is 45.6% ownership. This is a good man, a good running back to have on your team. We will see how Washington will split the carries. Now you already see the fact that they're starting to dial back into Antonio Gibson's touches this past week. I would not be shocked if Brian Robinson is their guy. They want him to succeed. So he is definitely one you got to get on your roster as well. Fab dollars, you may not have to spend as much. I got to say, like maybe 15%, if that, maybe even 10 will get you past, but you might have the other manager who's sneaky about it and knows that Brian Robinson is coming back and they want to stack the cupboards on their team with a lot of running backs. Mike Boone, I had him here, but breaking news just happened, and the Denver Broncos signed themselves a little Latavius Murray off of the New Orleans Saints practice squad, if you guys missed that. So now Lat Murray is a part of these Denver Broncos. So Mike Boone likely will have a bigger role this week until Lat Murray does get his feet wet in this offense. I do put the caveat on that some players do get installed a lot quicker, so Lat Murray might be the guy they want to trust behind a Melvin Gordon now that Vontae is gone. So, I mean, pick your poison at this point, but Lat Murray, 1% ownership rate. He just played a game in London with the Saints. Now he's coming back over to the Denver, or he's going to the Denver Broncos, I should say. But at this point, I think we know what Mike Boone is. He is, just a serviceable guy to take touches away in certain opportunities. Lat Murray's a guy that can handle a decent workload. So if anything happens to Melvin Gordon, or they want to, spell him at certain times, Lat Murray is the guy you want to own in this offense. I got to say, as we sit today, over a Mike Boone. Boone would have just been the default guy because he was the next man up in the rotation. I think even if this week does, come to fruition where Lat does not play a lot and you do have Mike Boone, so I wouldn't hate if you miss out on a Lat Murray that Mike Boone is your only 1 week filler for week 5 if you're dying for a running back, but I wouldn't trust it to start it, obviously, but Lat Murray is definitely the guy to own in this backfield behind a Melvin Gordon. Rachaad White, he finds himself in the good graces. I loved his game coming out of college, Arizona State. He reminded me a lot of an Arian Foster. Now you kind of see them sprinkling more touches his way. This is positive news for all Rachaad White, truthers like me. I'm a big fan of his game. Yes, he did lose the fumble in this past contest. Not going to be good for him. He's got to have that ball security, but I think they want to install him just a little bit more. He can catch, he can run. He's got enough wheels to make it to the house. He's not a super electric playmaker, but he has enough ability in the open field to make people miss. I like Rachaad White a lot as well. He is definitely one you got to get on your roster. Gus the Bus Edwards, he finds himself coming off the pup as well. He 8% ownership rate. We saw how J.K. Dobbins ran pretty well this past week. Again, though, they are nursing him along. They're not giving him the full workload. They're going to want Gus the Bus back sooner rather than later. If he has no setbacks from his injury and he's fine, we could definitely see split case workload, even 55, 45 split ratio between J.K. Dobbins and Gus the Bus, because that's typically what they did. And the Ravens want to get back to the ground and pound game because it has been sorely lacking from this offensive scheme with all the running back injuries that they have. They're starting to get healthier. Gus the Bus is definitely someone you got to put on your roster as of today. It may be a couple weeks early as they try to get him back off the pup list, but he is definitely one you got to at least stash on that bench if you have room, man. Isaiah Pacheco, maybe you could go and get him. I'm still waiting a couple weeks at this point. The Kansas City Chiefs just seem to mix and match their running backs. CEH looks great, and Pacheco's taken up. If the lead is big, that's when Pacheco comes in the game, and he's going to give you that viable, point productivity. So at this point, it's matchup play based against weaker teams that I would consider even thinking about playing in Isaiah Pacheco, man. We're going to move on to wide receivers, and I mean Devin Duvernay still on my list, but who's the top dogs today? Michael Gallup and George Pickens, and this is good news. If you guys were dying for any kind of wide receiver help, Michael Gallup showed that he is back from his ACL injury, looked good, caught himself a touchdown pass. Cooper Rush, man, the new Tony Romo. What can you say about Cooper Rush? He's giving everybody the bum rush right now because all he's doing is scoring touchdowns and leading the Cowboys to victories. But this is good news. Even when Dak Prescott does come back, he likes Michael Gallup. They have chemistry. They will, especially without an Amari Cooper. Now a guy like Dak Prescott, this gets me excited. When Dak gets back on the field, CeeDee Lamb now has the, capable wide receiver 2 at his disposal to pull extra coverage from his side. Now both these individuals are going to eat a little bit more. I do like it a lot. Michael Gallup, 43.8% ratio of ownership right now, 9.4 points in his first game back. You cannot hate that for coming back from his first contest from the ACL injury. Michael Gallup is definitely one you got to add to your roster right now. The fab dollars are a tough one for me on this guy. I mean, 10%, 15% likely there. I don't know if I want to blow the bank on a Gallup right now, but if you have receiver problems and you would likely start a Gallup, then I definitely don't hate seeing the 15 to 20%, fab dollars going his way. George Pickens, he is 39% ownership rate. A lot of people were getting frustrated, myself included, even though we know he is an alpha wide receiver and he will likely be utilized in that, way in Pittsburgh. This may come at the expense of other wide receivers, a.k.a. Chase Claypool. But the positive news, yes, we got Kenny Pickett. He found his way to the field, I should say. But, I mean, he looked okay. He didn't look great. 3 interceptions, but he was testing. He was trying to figure out where he could put the ball on a, NFL-style pro defense. First game, first NFL action, you got to understand the turnovers are going to come. What we did like to see is how much target share was going to a George Pickens, because they're just going to feast off each other, man. 2 rookies likely playing early on in camp. They probably have the best chemistry out of the receiver room right now as we sit today. If Kenny Pickett is going to be the guy that a lot of us believe he's going to be, I think he is a very good quarterback. Might take him a little bit of time, but I like his game a lot, and especially in an offense loaded with weapons. This is a good situation. George Pickens needs to be owned by everybody again. He is back in the good graces simply because of quarterback play. Get Mitchy Biscuits out of here, Mitchell Trubisky. I'm done. I've seen enough. Said it last week. It's time for Pittsburgh to move on, and I think we're going to see that this week. Devin Duvernay, like I said, he is still on the list. Don't know why you guys fading him. Yes, the point totals aren't as great, but he's still, in my opinion, I think he's a great bench player right now in case you're in a pinch and you need to start somebody, especially with the Ravens getting the run game back just a little bit more with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. This will open up a lot more pass attack for Lamar Jackson. You got to love that a lot. So Devin Duvernay, I don't know why he's still sitting on less than 50% of leagues right now. Josh Palmer from the L.A. Chargers. His role will continue as long as Keenan Allen is nursing that hamstring injury. Excuse me. I don't know why, how long, or I should say how long Keenan's going to be out for, but those soft tissue injuries continue to hamper players. They continue to pop up later on if they're not fully recovered. So Palmer is a guy as well we got to own, and he's repaying you decently. It's not great. We got to see a little bit more, but that rib injury from Herbert is definitely hurting the cause for this entire pass game. But Palmer is definitely one guy that I'm definitely always going to keep owning right now. Kadarius Toney graces the list right now because he's supposed to come back from his injury, and this is good news for Giants fans. Wan'Dale Robinson as well. He's at the bottom of the list, 5.4% ownership rate. Both these individuals at some point will be fantasy viable, okay? I'm taking a little bit of a flyer to suggest I'm going to take a shot on Toney, even though his injuries bother me all the time. It's always a problem with this man finding his way into the medical room. When he's on the field, we know how explosive he is. That's why it's worth the risk. If you got the room for a player who's not producing right now, and Kadarius Toney is making strides, the ticker is on the positive for him to return this week. This is positive news, especially the way that Saquon Barkley is running the ball. The only caveat is we did see Daniel Jones. He got injured with that ankle, so we'll see if he's going to suit up this week. If not, could be potentially Tyrod Taylor, but I think he's dealing with a concussion. So many injuries in the league right now. Devontae Parker finds his way back on the list as well. He's scoring touchdowns 2 out of 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Now you got Billy Zappi being the quarterback. Brian Hoyer, he went down with an injury. Potentially Brian Hoyer does come back from the concussion and play this week in week number 5. But either way, these guys are kind of gunslinger type quarterbacks who will just, they're going to have interceptions, they're going to have turnovers, but they're going to try their best to just sling the ball up to the playmakers. Right now with Myers still out with his injury, he may return this week as well. Devontae Parker is one that is a legit wide receiver 1 in an offense filled with wide receiver 2s and secondary options. So he is, for me, it's all about matchup play for me for Devontae Parker at this point. I'm not rushing to the wire to grab him, but I'm definitely taking notice of his services. Same goes for Corey Davis. He just keeps stealing touches away from our guys like Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore. Stop doing this, man. 45 points, and he's only owned at less than 16%, almost 16% rate. At this point, what can you say? It's a tough risk every single week, but Zach Wilson back. He likes the chemistry with a Corey Davis. They're comfortable with him. So was Joe Flacco. This guy is just off the radar right now for defenses to have any coverage come his way because of how good Garrett Wilson has played. Because now Zach Wilson does have that great chemistry with an Elijah Moore. You got to get Corey Davis also on your roster because there is matchup flex appeal here as well. And 45 points, you cannot fade that type of productivity for a guy that's sitting on the waiver wire. I don't know why everyone's hating on Corey Davis, but it's because we're fearful that you're going to get those contests where he's going to put up a goose egg and it was just such a waste of time. But it is definitely matchup play appeal for me there. Khalil Shakir, excuse me, Khalil Shakir, the Buffalo Bills, he finds his way on the list because Jamison Crowder broke his ankle. He is now done for the foreseeable future. We don't know when he'll come back, if he does come back at all this season. This is good news for Khalil Shakir. It's about time. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. It's about time that the Buffalo Bills unleash this rookie. He is good. He showed it in the preseason. He's able to make plays. He's got wheels. He's got the hands, and he's got good route tree. It's time for the Buffalo Bills to utilize this man. Yes, you still got Isaiah McKenzie. He's dealing with a concussion as well. So if this is the case, you got to go and get Khalil Shakir because nobody's going to be looking at him right now on Wednesday for the waiver wire pickups. They won't do it. You got to go and get Khalil because he is going to be a sneaky play if we do see Isaiah McKenzie out of this contest. There is potential they do elevate another receiver from the practice squad, but we will see. I do like the prospects of Khalil Shakir being a viable option in injury replacement for Isaiah McKenzie and what was Jamison Crowder. So for me, he's a very much under-the-radar play right now, under-the-radar pickup, but this is what I'm here for. If you guys need some, extreme depth on your roster with high-end potential in an offense that throws the ball better than anybody, and I don't care, I'm saying it, Josh Allen is a beast. We love him, but Khalil Shakir is definitely on the radar at this point. Zay Jones, Westbrook-Akeen, Greg Dortch, and like I said, Wan'Dale Robinson, they're on the watch right now because we did see Treylon Burks get injured. Westbrook-Akeen is the next guy up likely in this offense to get productivity, but again, the pass game in Tennessee is very meek at best, and I mean, we can't necessarily trust it. Dortch is going to be finding his way to falling down the waiver wire very quickly now that Rondale Moore is back. We saw Cliff Kingsbury start installing packages for Rondale to get the ball, and it did come at the expense of a Greg Dortch, so we will see. And when D-Hop comes back in 2 weeks, everyone's going to forget this man's name, even though he put up very good productivity at this point. Wan'Dale Robinson, I'll finish it off here because he's a sneaky guy. He's a good wide receiver, but this injury does concern me. He's a smaller type of wide receiver. He does take any more hits. He's going to find his way back into the medical room very, very quickly. But if he does find his way onto the pitch, onto the field, he's going to be able to make plays. Definitely want to keep your eye on right now. I don't think we're in a rush to pick him up this week, but it is a notable addition. I want y'all to keep your eye on. Hit that watch list, hit the watch star, and he will be on your list. Quarterback time, Geno Smith. I mean, what year is this that I'm talking up Geno Smith? You got to be kidding me. The Seattle Seahawks trade away Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos, and Geno's doing better than Russ is, man. Geno's cooking, and not Russ. But hey, anyway, 13.3% ownership, 58.8% or fantasy points scored, on the season so far. The only thing is with a Geno, it's going to be up and down. We know this. And competition is going to be key. He's got a good matchup this week if you're looking for streaming quarterbacks, but you got to give it to Geno. He is being very accurate, very careful with the ball, and they are making plays. He's taken what the defense is giving him, and he's using his legs with the rushing upside. Geno is a viable fantasy quarterback for streamers, no kidding about it, and definitely for me, if you're in trouble and you're trying to stream quarterbacks, you got guys like Matt Ryan who continuously, poo the bed. Geno Smith is definitely an option for you. You lost maybe a Danny Pennies on your deep dynasty roster. Geno Smith is definitely one you got to go and get because I think he's going to give you at least the threshold of 15 points per week with the upside of going up 20 plus. So right now he's doing very well. He's got players at his disposal that we know are superstar talent. So as long as they get this run game going, Geno's going to be very good. Jared Goff, again, third week in a row, still under 50%, 48.1. He's almost got 60 fantasy points. He had another stellar day versus those Seattle Seahawks last week. So again, and that's without his top wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and without DeAndre Swift. So they're moving the ball still. That's a very positive sign for a quarterback in fantasy football who isn't a runner to at least still continue to put up points with an offense that was a little bit more, less abundant because of injuries that did transpire. Matt Ryan does find his way back on the notable list. This is a headache we're going to see from Matt Ryan every single week this year, I do believe. They're starting to figure it out. We heard Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, he's getting extremely frustrated with the GM and the head coach, Frank Reich, because they're just not putting it all together. How is it, you get the players frustrated? Naheem Hines himself even said, we continuously change over quarterbacks. It was Phillip Rivers, then it was Carson Wentz, now it's, Matt Ryan. How can we get into any kind of a groove if we're constantly changing over the quarterback position? Completely agree with him. So it's going to take time for these Colts to find their mojo, to find their steam, and maybe we saw a little bit more come this past week. Matt Ryan also, like I was saying about Geno, Matt Ryan was taking what the defense was giving him. The tight ends had a bigger day than the wide receivers because that's what was happening in the defensive coverage. So we're going to see, growing pains with this offense, but Matt Ryan is capable to give you the 22 points per week still, like I was saying, and I was only thinking that the consistency rates would be higher for Matt Ryan because he's been here before, right? He's been in the league for a very long time, and consistency should still be at his favor. It just isn't in this offense right now. I don't know what to say. It's a hard one. Maybe just on matchup play, you're better off, but Matt Ryan still can give you the 22 points you need every single week. Marcus Mariota and Ryan Tannehill. Okay, the streaming options for these guys. Mariota, I'm trusting more over Tannehill right now because of the rushing upside, because of his ability to continue to move this offense. Ryan Tannehill and this Titans team, they went back to the drawing board. They started feeding King Henry a little bit more. Now we might see Tannehill become more efficient on the field as well. So out of these two individuals, I'm leaning toward Mariota over Tannehill in those good matchups that you can plug and play your stream quarterbacks. And for me right now, Mariota's doing everything you like to see on the field, and he's giving you, they're roughly around the same amount of points at this point because Mariota didn't have the best game last week. But again, they will continue to move forward. The rushing upside is there for Mariota over Tannehill, so that's kind of where my edge does go. Winston still injured. He'll likely suit up this coming week, so he is definitely a streaming option every single time. You got Zach Wilson now, the Cougar Killer. He is back on the list, man. Almost 20 points in his first game back. He looked good, okay? He didn't look great. He looked good. I wanted to see what he was going to be able to do on the field with the progression-wise. Is he going to be able to read the defense? He looked good. He was making very good throws. There was one throw over the middle. Big boy stuff. Big boy throw through the coverage in the smallest of windows where only his receiver could get it. This is what I wanted to see in his first game back, and he definitely proved that to me. Yes, there was some sloppy play. Yes, he missed his wide receivers. I believe he even threw an interception, but he is a good quarterback in my opinion, and I think the progression is going to continue to rise like we're seeing from a Trevor Lawrence, like we're seeing from all the other rookie quarterbacks, except for a Justin Fields at this point. You got to feel bad for him. That offensive line in Chicago is doing him no favors, but nevertheless, Wilson and Pickett right now, both two individuals we got to keep our eyes on because they could be extremely good streaming quarterback options as the season continues to move on, and I would not, I wouldn't take my eye off them for 1 minute because they have another 20-point game. They're going to be picked off the waiver wire very, very fast. Bridgewater, Cooper Rush, and Billy Zappi finish the list just as people to watch this week. I mean, the point productivity is not going to get you over the top, man. Cooper Rush, on the other hand, he has been moving the ball decently well. So, again, maybe you're stuck and you're going to go Cooper Rush because you had Dak Prescott. I don't hate that, but Bridgewater and Zappi, they're only watches for me at this point. Let's conclude with tight ends, and Tyler Conklin, again, graces the list as the top tight end, 40% ownership rate, 35.7 points. He leads all tight ends on the waiver wire still right now in fantasy productivity. Again, okay, it wasn't great. He didn't hit the boom rate on this past week under the 10 points, but he still gave you enough out of the tight end, circle to be happy with the point productivity of 8 or 9 points full PPR. So, I mean, you got to like what you saw. He will start taking a back seat, though, because as Zach Wilson does get more comfortable with all his wide receivers, including a Garrett Wilson, you're going to see Garrett, you're going to see Elijah Moore, and you're going to see Corey Davis still sprinkled. The only time you're going to see Conklin is going to be in plays that are directly called for him or a check down option. So he will see his fantasy productivity taper off as the weeks continue to move on. So maybe 1 or 2 more weeks of full end, top end productivity for Conklin. Otherwise, I might start looking in another direction. You got to stream those tight ends, man. You got to get the best points per week to be that X factor for your team. Robert Tonyan is that X factor that I was hoping for. Finally, he gets in the end zone, 23.1 points, 26% ownership rate. I don't know why Aaron Rodgers isn't going to this man more. Fine, you're trying to build chemistry with Romeo Doubs. He looks like a good player right now. He's making good plays. You're going to Allen Lazard, but number 3 should be Robert Tonyan, if not number 2 in this target, in the room for targets at this point from Aaron Rodgers. He is the big body guy. Yes, he's coming back still from that ACL. I do believe they're still nursing him along as well. But as he continues to get, back to the good graces, gaining the trust of an Aaron Rodgers, I believe Robert Robert Tonyan could have a monster second half of the season, scoring anywhere from 3 to 6 touchdowns in the second half of the season, if not more. So that is very good fantasy point productivity potential we could get from a Robert Tonyan, but definitely keep your eye on that. Will Dissly, what did I tell y'all last week? He was definitely a viable streaming option. He does it again, scores a touchdown. Geno's loving life with his tight ends. Noah Fant even got in the mix with a touchdown from Geno. Dissly is the guy that's got the most confidence. He's getting open. He's got lack of coverage coming his way because of guys like DK and Tyler Lockett and Noah Fant. Dissly's running free out there. As long as they get this run game going, they're going to do double tight end sets, and Will Dissly's going to never leave the field. I mean, he's going to leave the field, but I mean, the double tight end sets keeps him on the field with great play action passes, especially in the red zone. They're always looking for the play action. That's Pete Carroll's MO. Will Dissly is definitely one you got to keep your eye on because 35.6 points, he is definitely doing a whole lot of good for your fantasy team, but unfortunately 2% of people only own him and have reaped the rewards so far. Hayden Hurst, Logan Thomas, Evan Ingram, still the top 3 streaming tight ends right now on the waiver wire right now. Hurst scored himself a touchdown. The thing is with Hurst, I think it's going to be intermittent with Jamar Chase, with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. You're going to see the sprinkles come here and there. He is involved enough in the target share with 3 to 6 targets per game to get you at least 2 catches, 3 catches for 40 yards, and you're hoping he's going to save the day with a touchdown. That's what you're banking on from Hurst in this offense. He's never going to be featured ever because unless there's injuries to the wide receiver room, you're never going to see it. But speaking of injuries to the wide receiver room, the Washington Commanders just lost Jahan Dotson for 1 to 2 weeks due to a hamstring injury. This absolutely uplifts a Logan Thomas to see some of that target share. Not all of it, but some of it. But we do got problems in Washington. They've come back down to earth the past 2 weeks. They look absolutely awful versus stellar defensive lines from the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. They actually ate the lunch of these Washington Commanders offensive line, and it looks horrible. Carson Wentz has no answers when the rush is getting at him. The offensive line just cannot protect him. They cannot get the run game going, and everyone is just pinning their ears back and coming after Carson Wentz. However, if they do got a good matchup for Carson Wentz and the offensive line, Logan Thomas for the next 2 weeks should be a very good streaming tight end and get you the point productivity you require. The Indianapolis Colts, like I said, this is going to be the crapshoot now with Mo Cox, Mo problems. Because now Jelani Woods is also in the mix. They both have a very good, point threshold as we sit today entering week 5. We'll see how Matt Ryan continues to utilize these tight ends, but this one's going to be hit and miss. Very hard to trust every single week. So I would rather go Dissly, Hurst, Thomas, Tonyan, Conklin before I touch any of these guys down the board. Gesicki, maybe he sees sprinkles because Teddy Bridgewater's in the quarterback now. But again, it's very hard to trust someone like a Gesicki when you got Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill running the ball all over the field. But there you go. That's the waiver wire pickups you should be looking at this week. So there you have it. That is week number 5, waiver wire edition. Must add players. Continue down the path. Keep stacking those rosters, getting those players with high-end potential. Watch the matchups. Get the best matchup play for your dollar, for your fantasy fab dollar. And I mean, keep grinding because it is a long season. There's still a long way to go. We're only in week number 5. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts, and we'll see you next time. I am out.